السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا وسهلا إلى مركز العلوم والحكمة Remote Study. Welcome to the first part of our lesson series in Quran from the book titled Unlocking the Secret of Mastering the Recitation of the Noble Quran. I am Mudaris Sulaiman Ali. Happy listening. Do you know that there is a special rule in Tajweed attached to the pronunciation of Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah? I repeat, are you aware that there is a special rule attached to the pronunciation of Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah in Tajweed? Ismul Jalaalah simply means the mighty name of Allah, the well-known mighty name of Allah, which is Allah. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. So Ismul Jalaalah, so the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah, the pronunciation of Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is based on the kind of vowel sound that the letter before it carries. I repeat, the pronunciation of Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah depends on the kind of vowel sound that the letter before it carries. So there is a rule for when to pronounce the Lamun as Law, and there is another rule for when to pronounce Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah as La. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. Now talking about the first rule of Ismul Jalaalah. The first rule on how to pronounce the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah as a reciter, you must read the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah with thick voice. You must read it thickly. So you must read it with heavy tone. So you must read the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah with heavy tone or with thick voice. When you see a letter carrying Fataha or a letter carrying Dhamma before Ismul Jalaalah, I repeat, as a reciter, you must recite the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah with heavy tone. You must read it thickly. So when you see a letter carrying Fataha or a letter carrying Dhamma before it, according to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is known as tafkheeem in Tajweed, it is known as tafkheeem. Tafkheem means heavy tone, which is reciting the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah with heavy tone. La'allaka fahimt. So you do this when you see a letter carrying Fataha or a letter carrying Dhamma before the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. So we are going to use the following examples to illustrate the first rule of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tafkheeem. Tafkheem that says we should read the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah with heavy tone. When we see a letter carrying Fataha or a letter carrying Dhamma before it. So not wahid number one. So how do you read this? So we are going to read this as Inna Allaha. Inna Allah. So Inna Allah is more accurate than Inna Allah. So you read it as Inna Allah, not Inna Allah, according to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tafkheeem. Ithnan, number two. So we are going to read this as Minallahi. Minallahi. Minallahi, not Minallahi. So Minallahi is more accurate than Minallahi, according to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, because the letter before Ismul Jalaalah is taking Fataha. The letter before it is carrying Fataha. Thalatha, number three. So we read this as Hukmullahi. Hukmullahi, not Hukmullahi. Why is this so? Because the letter before the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is taking Dhamma. That is why, according to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tafkheeem. So tafkheeem. So we read it as Hukmullahi according to the principle of tafkheem. Arba'a, number four. So we read this as Kitabullahi. Kitabullahi, not Kitabullahi. Why is this so? Because the letter before the Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is taking Dhamma. So according to the principle of the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tafkheeem, so we read it thickly and not lightly. Kitabullahi, not Kitabullahi. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. Then we talk about the second principle of Ismul Jalaalah. The second rule on how Lamun in Ismul Jalaalah should be pronounced. So which is known as tarqeeq. A tarqeeq means light tone. As a reciter, you are expected to read the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah lightly. You read it lightly, not thickly. So you read it lightly upon seeing a letter carrying kasra before the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah. So the principle is known as tarqeeq, being the opposite of tafkheeem. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. So you read the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah lightly. So you read it lightly upon seeing a letter carrying kasra before it. I hope you understand the second principle. MashaAllah. Okay, we are going to use the following example to illustrate the second principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tarqeeq. So, wahid number 1. So we are going to read this as fi dinillahi. Fi dinillahi, not fi dinillahi. Why is this so? Because the preceding letter, the letter before the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is taking kasra. That is why, according to the second principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tarqeeq, Ithnan number 2. So we read this as Bismillahi. Bismillahi, not Bismillahi. Why is it so? Because the preceding letter or the letter before the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is taking kasra. So Bismillahi, not Bismillahi. So this according to the second rule, which is tarqeeq. Tarqeeq, not tafkheeem. So we apply tarqeeq, but not tafkheeem, by reading the lamun lightly. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. So we are going to illustrate the two principles using the following verses. Listen attentively as the verses are being recited.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. قل هو الله أحد. قل هو الله أحد. قل هو الله أحد. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح.
MashaAllah. Kul huwa Allahu, not kul huwa Allahu. According to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is at-tafkheem, you read the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah thickly. So, إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ, Nasrullahi, not Nasrullahi. Why is it so? So, it must be based on the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is tafkheem. You read the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah thickly. Why is it so? Because the letter before it is taking Dhamma. La'allaka fahimt. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. Then you have this.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول ولا نبي إلا إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته فينسخ الله ما يلقي الشيطان ثم يحكم الله آياته والله عليم حكيم. وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول ولا نبي إلا إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته فينسخ الله ما يلقي الشيطان ثم يحكم الله آياته والله عليم حكيم. وما أرسلنا من قبلك من رسول ولا نبي إلا إذا إلا إذا تمنى ألقى الشيطان في أمنيته فينسخ الله ما يلقي الشيطان ثم يحكم الله آياته والله عليم حكيم.
MashaAllah. فَيَنْسَخُ اللَّهُ, not فَيَنْسَخُ اللَّهُ. We apply the first principle, which is at-tafkheeem. ثُمَّ يُحْكِمُ اللَّهُ, not ثُمَّ يُحْكِمُ اللَّهُ. We apply the principle of tafkheeem by reading the lamun thickly. Wallahu, not wallahu. According to the first principle of Ismul Jalaalah, which is at-tafkheeem. لَعَلَّكَ فَهِمْتَ. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. Then you have this.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا.
MashaAllah. في دين الله, في دين الله, not في دين الله. Why is it so? Because the letter before the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah is taking kasra. In that case, a tarqeeq must be used. A tarqeeq must be applied instead of at-tafkheeem. لَعَلَّكَ فَهِمْتَ. I hope you understand. MashaAllah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Make sure to download your own copy of the book via the link below.
Have a look at the contents of the ebook. Unlock the secrets of mastering the recitation of the Noble Quran. Now I am going to scroll up to take you through each lesson of this course. Please follow through as I do that. Lesson 1. Let's try to locate lesson 1. Lesson 1. So this is lesson 1, which talks about types of alif al-wasl in Arabic. Now lesson 2. Ad-Dars al-Thani, lesson 2. It is all about alif al-wasl. Alif al-wasl in the Noble Quran. And this is lesson 3. Lesson 3. The rules of alif al-wasl. So when do you read alif al-wasl with fataha at the beginning of a verse of the Noble Quran? And when do you read it with kasra at the beginning of a verse of the Noble Quran? And this is lesson 4. Lesson 4. Ad-Dars al-Rabi'. Lesson 4. Then lesson 5. Ad-Dars al-Khamis. So then we talk about a practical exercise on the rules of alif al-wasl, and this is part 2. So we have part 1 here. So this is part 1. Al-Juz' al-Awwal, part 1. A practical exercises on the rules of alif al-wasl. Al-Juz' al-Awwal, part 1. So this is part 2. Al-Juz' al-Thani. And this is part 3. Al-Juz' al-Thalis. This is part 4. Al-Juz' al-Rabi'. And this part 5, Al-Juz' al-Khamis. This part 6, Al-Juz' al-Sadis. This part 7, Al-Juz' al-Sabi'. And this part 8, Al-Juz' al-Thamin. Part 9, Al-Juz' al-Tasi'. This part 10, Al-Juz' al-Ashir. This part 11, Al-Juz' al-Hadi Ashar. This part 12, Al-Juz' al-Thani Ashar. This part 13, Al-Juz' al-Thalitha Ashar. This part 14, Al-Juz' al-Rabi Ashar. So this is all about the rule of alif al-wasl with tanween. So when you see a letter, when you see alif al-wasl after a letter, it carrying double fataha, double kasra, double duma. So how will you read alif? How will you read the letter carrying tanween? So how will you read the letter carrying tanween? So are you going to read this as lahawan faddu? Lahawan faddu. This is very wrong. So you should read it as lahawanin faddu. Lahawanin faddu. So you do that by knowing this particular principle of alif al-wasil. So these are the examples of that. Still on the rule of alif al-wasil with tanween. So this part 5 on practical exercise of the rule of alif al-wasil and tanween. So this part 6, al-juzu as-sadis, part 7, part 8, part 9, part 10, part 11. So each of the exercises is simplified with a verse of the Noble Quran. I repeat. So each of the exercises is simplified with a verse of the Noble Quran. So part 13 is still on at-tanween with alif al-wasil. So this So those are the exercises on the rule of tanween with alif al-wasil. Okay, these are the practical exercise on the rule of alif al-wasil and tanween. Still on that. Still on that. So the rule of tanween with alif al-wasil. How do you read a letter with tanween? With alif al-wasil. So this is the last lesson of the book. So the rule on how the name of Allah is pronounced in tajweed. So the lamun in the name of Allah, which is known as Ismul Jalaalah, Ismul Jalaalah, which is the lesson that I discussed with you just now. So the lamun in Ismul Jalaalah, how do we pronounce it? So do we pronounce it as law or la? So this particular principle will teach you how to do that. So when to say law and when to say la. Bismillahi inna Allaha nasrullahi. So this is the last lesson of the book. So the question is, how much will you have to pay to gain full access to all of this? Just 2,000 naira. Less than $2. 2,000 naira. So you can do that by clicking Shop Now button below to download your own copy. So remember that each lesson of the book has a video clip attached to it. So the objective behind it is for you to listen to the lesson directly from the mouth of the teacher at your own convenient time. At your own convenient time. Then use the PDF file to revise it. So you can do this at any time and you own it forever. So it doesn't get expired. So what are you waiting for? Download your copy right now. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. أستغفرك وأتوب إليك مع السلامة وإلى اللقاء آخر.